Called down the thunder, well now you got it. So run, you cur. Run! Tell all the other curs the law's coming. You tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
They wanted Buffalo, and boy, did they get it. What is going on, everybody? Welcome, everybody, into the Aftermath on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe, brought to you by Big Bear Barbecue. All Victory Mondays are brought to you by Big Bear Barbecue, your source for sauce in Buffalo, New York, specifically in the South Towns. Big Bear Barbecue, they have, smokers, pellets, sauces, rubs, you name it, advice, classes. Joe Green's got everything going on. Big Bear Barbecue in Depew, New York. Go see my guy Joe. Let him know that Overreaction sent you. You'll get, 10% off or 20% off, and then a door prize, all kinds of cool stuff. But it is so good to have every single one of you guys joining me right now. Welcome to everybody in the comments section. It is Victory Monday. We're going to tout that quite a bit because the playoffs are here. The tournament is in session, and the Buffalo Bills, I don't want to say have put the league on notice, but we're going to get into this. They won in a way that, we have not seen them win in a very, very, very long time. But my name is Joe Miller. I'm the voice of the Aftermath, and you can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. Please do me a favor. Please please subscribe, whatever vidcast or whatever platform that you're watching this vidcast on. Please do us a favor. Smash that like button. Hit the thumbs up. Also subscribe if you can, if you're new to the program. And if you're listening to this in post as a podcast, please do us a favor there. Subscribe as well, because it gets our numbers up. It helps us out with our metrics, all that good stuff with advertisers, which allows us to keep bringing this stuff to you, I'll say for free, even though somebody somewhere from a CPM standpoint is paying us, but not much, but we'd like to get paid more. So any help you could be would be great. And as always, whether this podcast finds you around a cup of coffee, at the gym with your AirPods in, on the drive to work in what is now becoming a snowstorm here in the South Towns, or if you're just watching me live right now, let me just say one more time, welcome. Let me also say one more time to you, Bills Mafia, happy Victory Monday. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Denver Broncos 31-7 in a game that didn't look as one-sided early as it did kind of eventually going into the later portions of the game when the Bills started to force their will on the Broncos. But the Buffalo Bills came in. There was never really a doubt. The game was never really in question, even with kind of that jump up that the Broncos had with that big touchdown pass from Bo Nix to Troy Franklin. There was never really a worry. They scored very fast. It was a pretty play. And as I said last night on the postgame show with Jerry and John, Bo Nix took it in the teeth right after I should say he released that football. Beautiful pass, beautiful catch, beautiful play. But that was all the points that the Denver Broncos could pretty much muster in this whole game. A game that, dare I say, was a little bit boring at times. We are not used to seeing the Buffalo Bills run the football this much. We're going to talk about it. I was yawning in the stadiums. I heard people behind me actively loudly yawning during this football game. It wasn't one of those Detroit Lion, Kansas City Chiefs, edge of your seat, back and forth, what's going to happen next? Don't anybody make a mistake game. It was just kind of a, hey, here we are, and we're going to run the football, and we're going to talk about it. The Bills were a very, very controlled football team in this game, clear and concise game plan to basically play that ball control style that we've seen them try it at times, but we've never seen it this weighted to the run, is what I would say. They dominated the time of possession, which it was like almost 42 minutes to 18 minutes to the Broncos 18 minutes. The Broncos just didn't have an answer as the Buffalo Bills basically ran into the teeth of what one of the things that Broncos defense does the best, which is run stopping. They get after the passer well, or I should say have gotten after the passer well this year, and they've done a good job at stopping running backs. And the Buffalo Bills were committed to beating them on the ground, which should send a message, should send a notice to the rest of the league in this playoff season that we're not just a 50-50, pass to run, very complimentary football team. We're not potentially a Josh Allen flip the switch, turn into Superman, put on the cape, and go absolutely bonkers in a football game when he needs to. And now we are also a team that can, Josh Allen's just going to sit back there, be very, very precise and very consistent and calm. 20 of 26, couple 100 yards, 250 yards, couple touchdowns, no mistakes, and we're just going to run the ball straight through your defense. It was a good football game. It was one to be encouraged by, but like I said, at times early first half, a little bit into the third quarter, a little boring. just being honest with you. As I said, the Bills ran the football 44 times and passed it just 26 times, amassing 26 first downs on 72 plays. They averaged 4.5 yards per rush, with James Cook leading the way with 120 rushing yards. And this kid, James Cook, he seems to be the perfect fit for this offense, the perfect complement to not only Josh Allen, but to Ty Johnson and Ray Davis. Like when Cook seems to be having trouble at the line of scrimmage, they bring in Ty, they bring in Ray, and those guys kind of do something a little different, and then they bring Cook back in. I don't know if it's film study on the side. I don't know if they're giving him the surface, which I know they do with all of the players. And basically, hey, look, this is where the holes are. This is what they're giving up. And then usually when he re-enters the game, even he effectively finds a way to turn it on. But James Cook in this game from start to finish, from jump, was just very good. Josh Allen had what we would call a Josh Allen round one playoff game. This is becoming the thing for Josh Allen in round one. He just beats teams. Completing 76% of his throws. Again, as I said, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had himself a day. James Cook had himself a day. The offensive line had themselves a day. And outside of that early touchdown, the first possession of the game, which, Rasul Douglas basically said, you can't harp on something that happened in the first 3 minutes of the football game. That defense also had themselves a game. A lot was made of this game kind of coming in, and as the week wore down, the narratives changed, right? Last week when the matchups were set, the Denver Broncos beat the Chiefs. Well, the Chiefs backups, as you heard the crowd, we want Buffalo, and boy, did they get Buffalo. When the matchups were set, that the Broncos were coming to Buffalo, the narratives at first were the Bills are going to destroy the Broncos. The Broncos don't really have any business being in this tournament. Maybe should have been Cincinnati. I know a lot of the Cincinnati folks were chirping that, but there was a feeling that, the Bills should, as the 2 seed and what we've seen from the Bills, they should maybe dominate, own this team, this Bronco team in the playoffs, in the first round of the playoffs. The line came out. The Bills were 8.5-point favorites when the line came out. And by Sunday, as much as the line didn't move, I was beginning to see, it progressively grew from, hey, the Denver Broncos, played some good football. Hey, Bo Nix can beat you. Hey, the Broncos defense is the best at, sacking the quarterback. And, regardless, and let's not talk about the fact that Josh Allen was the least sacked quarterback in the NFL this year. We're not going to talk about that anymore. We're going to talk about how dominant this Broncos defensive line is in getting after the passer, also in stopping the run. Oh my gosh, they've got Patrick Surtain. How much by Friday, Saturday were you sick of hearing like, well, they're just going to have Patrick Surtain shut down one half of the entire football field? Like that man is going to shut down from the midway between the hash marks to his entire side. Like nobody's catching a football on that side of the football field. And again, by Sunday morning, I was seeing reels as I'm kind of waking up, the betting guys that do all the betting stuff and media types, at that point saying, not only are they going to take the Broncos to cover, I think the Broncos can absolutely cover. This is going to be a tight football game, but they might straight out beat the Bills. This Bills team can be had. The Bills were having none of it. And I don't know if you want to call it hangover from not being selected to the Pro Bowl, not being selected as an all-pro, players in general, not having your quarterback, or your quarterback, I should say, going upside down in the MVP odds and race. Maybe there was a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. I almost hope not, because those chips only last so long, and a chip like this chip on your shoulder could have been cashed in after just this one football game. And the Buffalo Bills need to play not necessarily that style of football, but they need to play solid, consistent, excellent football for 3 more weeks, right? They've got the divisional round, the AFC Championship game, and then the Super Bowl. They can't have a letdown. They can't revert back to slow starts. They can't revert back to kind of sleepwalking through the first half of a football game, like we've seen them do, not consistently, but at times through this regular season. But, make no mistake, there were storylines and stats that made you, as a Bills fan, going into this Broncos game, slightly begin to doubt your football team. Regardless of who the Broncos are, it turned into, and regardless of who the Bills are, it very much turned into, because of talking heads, I should be worried about this football game. The reality is we didn't really have any reason to be worried. It just was what it was. The Bills committed to the run game. They came in, and it worked. And I think what's interesting about the fact that they committed to the run game and it worked as well as it did, the Buffalo Bills, and I kind of said this at the top, showed yet another way that they can win football games. Josh Allen, as always, is dialed in for the playoffs, right? Josh Allen is going to do, other than the 1 year that we played the Bengals after the DeMar Hamlin incident, where that team was just not, and I believe they beat the Dolphins the week before that. They were just not, there was a lot going on, just around, universally around that football team. I think there was some stuff going on in Josh's personal life. Other than that one football game, Josh has always done a very good job of being dialed up and kind of like ready for playoff football. And the Bills, in my opinion, sent a message to the league in winning a football game in the playoffs the way that they just did. This is very different than any way that we've seen them win. The defense, if offensively, the defense did what this defense do often, which is effectively feel out the opposing team's offense for a drive, sometimes a drive and a half or 2, and then basically discover what they need to do or employ what they need to do to effectively shut down the opposing team's offense. And outside of a missed field goal, I mean, Denver didn't even sniff. They had less than 200 yards overall total yards going into the second half. And the only yards, as far as I can tell, that they gained in the second half were the first 45 yards or so in the very beginning of the third quarter on their first possession. Those were the only yards that they gained the rest of the game. So the Buffalo Bills defense basically annihilated. And I think McDermott still gets a lot of run. I still get people in my DMs. I still get people mention me on Twitter and talk about, there was a guy in the comment section last night on the post-game show, had a slur name for Sean McDermott and how he's a pretender. And, as much as they look good for this game, they're not going to look good all the games. And there's an expectation, it feels like, that if teams are allowed to have bad football games, right? So defenses can have a bad day, offenses can have a bad day, players can have a bad day, but it feels like Sean McDermott could go, in a Sean McDermott football team, a defensively coached football team, could go 3 years without ever allowing a single team to score a point. So literally shutting out opponents 17 or for 17 games, shutting out all their opponents all the way through the playoffs. And I'm exaggerating here, but I think you'll track with me. And then year 4, week 7, the first 6 games of the year, again, have shut out every opponent. So they've got 3.5 years of shutouts going. Sean McDermott teams do. And then the Buffalo Bills will play XYZ team, pick whomever it is, good team, bad team, middle of the road team. They score 21 points on us. The Bills lose because they only scored 17 points. And all of a sudden, Sean McDermott is back to needing to be fired. He's a pretender. We knew exactly what we were getting. I don't understand why this guy's still a coach in the NFL. It's the narrative about Sean McDermott. Maybe it doesn't need to go away, but it needs to lessen. It needs to quiet down. Some of y'all just need to shut up, for lack of a better way of saying it. Why don't you freaking enjoy the ride? Like, why are you waiting for the wheels to fall off? Are the wheels going to fall off at some point between now and eternity? Yes, the wheels are absolutely going to fall off. This team is going to play a bad football game. And the good news is you're going to be ready, right? You've got the tweets loaded and the messages on the Facebook Bills Mafia groups. You've got them loaded. So you can just tell everybody how right you were that Sean McDermott's a pretender. The reality is you look like a clown at this point. And I'm totally off script right now. You look like a clown. Just get over it. Sean McDermott is a good NFL head coach. Is he better than Andy Reid? Probably not. Is he better than a couple other guys in the NFL? Probably not. Do we have to are we required to have the best coach in football in all of the annals of history? No, we're not. But we don't have the best coach in football. We probably got a top 5, top 3 head coach in football. But do we have to have the best one for you to be happy? My guess is no matter who the head coach was, you would have some reason to hate said head coach. The gaffes that we've seen in time management and clock management and the games have gotten way better. He isn't necessarily losing challenges the way that he was losing challenges in the past. He's not calling timeouts necessarily at all inappropriate times. He's not punting the football like Mike Tomlin at bad times. He's going for it on 4th down. He trusts his offense. He trusts his defense. They're winning football games in different ways, and we've seen this team win, dare I say, in ways that we weren't sure they were necessarily capable of winning. And the reality is you are still not happy. I don't know what the freak you want. At this point in time, if you're still pressing down on Sean McDermott for mistakes like 13 seconds, if you're still pressing down on Sean McDermott for mistakes that have happened in the past, things that he has maybe not 100% corrected, but 97% corrected, you're a clown show at this point. You're the clown show, not Sean McDermott. And it's at the point where I see those tweets and it's just an easy scroll past. I don't even click on it to see what the other people that you're baiting into the conversation are saying back to you, because you're just a clown show at this point. Looking ahead, so I'm going to get you guys out of here. The Bills host the Ravens. We've been talking about it. And the conversations about that game have already started, and the buildup will probably be legendary, primarily due to the fact that both these guys are MVP candidates, and there's been so much vitriol, and I'll say hatred and negative comments, one towards the other, not the players, but fans of one towards fans of the other, that the media, as much as they feel like or have said that they're sick of it, I'm not necessarily sure that they are, but the buildup for this football game is going to be legendary. There's a clash of the Titans, at least in media words, coming 6:30 on this Sunday night in Highmark Stadium. And the Buffalo Bills could play this several different ways. To me, my preferred way to see them play this game would to come out with an immeasurable amount of urgency, not urgency to the point where it's forcing you into mistakes and you're sloppy and you're out of control, but urgency in the sense of realizing you've got one shot, right? You've got to beat this team. This is the day. Every week it's about the next game, which we've heard them talk about. And I need to give my very best on every single play because there is no next play. That's the type of urgency I'm talking about. But I would like to see them come out hot offensively. And basically the first team to 40 points wins. That to me is the ideal way to beat this Ravens game. And there's defensive reasonings behind that kind of fit in both ways. When you talk about racing to 40 and trying to outscore your opponent, much the way the Bills did against the Lions, you're still looking for the Ravens to make mistakes. You're looking for the Ravens to have 3 and outs or have to punt. You're looking for the Ravens to basically shoot themselves in the foot with dropped passes. You are going to be efficient and urgent, and you need them to make mistakes. The other way is effectively what we saw the Buffalo Bills do yesterday. Hold the football. Hold the football for 40 to 45 minutes of the 60 that are in the game. Limit possessions for the Ravens. Wait them out. Hope for mistakes. and I think I just said it a second ago, the Ravens don't really make mistakes. They're a penalized team, very similarly to the way the Bills are penalized, but they don't make the mistakes that you would want them to make. They don't turn the ball over the way that Lamar Jackson had a historic year this year. 40 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Yes, I believe he fumbled the ball 6 or 8 times, but even still, when you talk about the amount that he touches the football, play after play after play, Derrick Henry, all these guys, they secure the ball. They don't really make mistakes. If you're waiting out a mistake from them, you're going to be waiting a long time. At the end of the day, maybe you try to slow them down, but at the same time, you can't have them eat up the clock either. You can't have them limit your possessions. You need to put them in a position where they feel a measure of urgency trying to score, which potentially puts them in a case where they're going to make a mistake. But it's going to be interesting. So what say you, Bills Mafia? Is this a boat race? Do we come out of the gate swinging? Because they're going to, and try to get to 45 before them, 40, 45 points? Or do you play more of a possession type football game, which the Bills just proved to you that they can do against a good defense in the Denver Broncos? That's the question. And I have a feeling that regardless of how they're playing, there's going to be a bunch of us that are going to be nervous, and some of you that are going to probably be negative, regardless of how it goes. Going to have a lot of conversation just about this football game in the coming week, right? This is what we're here for. The Ravens have an elite passer in Lamar Jackson. Elite passer. He has grown. He has removed the limitations in his play from the past couple of years. If you remember, when he first came out, he was hesitant, and they didn't have him throwing outside of the numbers. Quarterbacks, when they come in as a rookie, a lot of times they'll give him half field reads, right? Hey, we're gonna call this play, we're gonna run this play, and we only want you to look to the left side. We're gonna call this play, run this play. We only want you to look to the right side. Lamar Jackson was more of a middle of the field guy when he came out as a quarterback from college. And for years, they didn't have him throwing outside the numbers. He's at the point where he sees the whole field. Elite passer of the football. They also have an elite running quarterback in Lamar Jackson. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. They've got an elite running back in Derrick Henry. It's not a great it's not a great setup. And then you throw in Mark Andrews, who completely dwarfs Taron Johnson and is an enormous elite tight end in the NFL. And they should potentially be getting Zay Flowers back. I haven't seen the injury report. I'm not necessarily sure how he's looking. But the Ravens are the class, very much the class of this postseason. They're the class of, they are the standard, the bar that set is, the Chiefs are trying to three-peat, which no team has ever done. They've got Pat Mahomes. They've got Travis Kelce. The Buffalo Bills have Josh Allen. They're a perennial winner. They win playoff games. They look to be the Chiefs' biggest competition, right? You've got the Lions in this tournament on the NFC side. You've got the upstart Vikings over there. You've got a lot of teams like that. But the Ravens, it's hard to argue that the Ravens aren't the best looking on paper and week to week potentially on your television screen, most formidable, scariest football team to play for a lot of reasons. The question is, can they be beaten? The answer is yes. They've lost some games this year. They've lost some games to some pretty poor opponents in the Browns and the Raiders. So they can be beaten. The question is how are the Buffalo Bills going to do that? And we'll see. We will see on Sunday. Around the league, the Chiefs are going to host the Texans. And just a real quick narrative about this one. The Chiefs are getting hot at the right time. This is what the Chiefs do. They're basically the new New England Patriots from the Patriots dynasty, where they're almost bored with the regular season, right? Can we just why do we have to play all 17 games? Why do I have to go on television and play that football team? They've spent a lot of time this year playing down to their opponents. I think because of that reason, there's just a great deal of and unfortunately it didn't nip them in the bud. A lot of times teams get that haughty, get that arrogant, get that sense of entitledness about them because they're good, and they find themselves out of the playoffs one year. It's like, oh, we didn't take any of this stuff in the regular season serious because we're a good football team, and now we've lost enough games. And this could have been that year. We've lost enough games that it put us outside looking in. The Chiefs or the Patriots are, Patriots, Chiefs. The Chiefs are just not that team. The Chiefs are a team that can do what they got to do when they need to do it, get a little bit of luck, the horseshoe's stuck up there, and they come out on top. But what we saw from the Chiefs the last several weeks of the season is a team that's begin to put it together, button up all the looseness, and they're very much engaged. They're no longer bored with what has happened so far in this NFL season. They're very much engaged in what is about to happen, which is the postseason, which is for them their run to their third straight Super Bowl win, something nobody has ever done. But they're getting hot at the right time. Houston, people are trying to set narratives now. It's Monday morning that Houston is good enough to beat the Chiefs. We saw what they did against the Buffalo Bills, holding Josh Allen to 9 completions on 30 attempts, like blah, blah, blah. The defense is good, right? The Houston Texans defense is good. They're probably good enough. And the reality is even if they beat the Chiefs, can they beat the Bills and the Ravens? Maybe. I mean, any given Sunday is always the topic, the conversation inside of the NFL. The offense has talent, though. Even missing Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, they still have Stroud, who has struggled a little bit this year, a little bit of a sophomore slump, but has come through when needed. Nico Collins is a unit. Nico Collins is that dude. He just is. And then, Joe Mixon running the football. He didn't have a good game necessarily this past week, but when Joe Mixon has the football, he will beat you. It's hard to believe how much better he is as a Texan than he was. He was good as a Bengal, and he's much better as a Texan. They just do a very good job scheming him and getting him, in the right kind of run fits for the type of game he plays. This team just effectively, the Houston Texans, they just lack talent. They lack consistency. They've got talent. They lack consistency on a week-to-week basis. But as I said, we've seen the Chiefs play down to their opponents. So would it be a surprise to any of us if we saw the Chiefs play down to the Texans? The Texans keep it close, maybe be winning late in this football game, and then the Chiefs squeak it out to basically move on to the AFC Championship game? No, I wouldn't be surprised. Would you be surprised if the Chiefs came in and blew the doors off the Texans? I don't think you would. I don't think you'd be surprised because you know who the Chiefs are, and you've seen what the Texans have done this season. Would you be surprised in the third scenario if the Texans went in and beat the Chiefs by 2 possessions, by 10 points, by 9 points, by 12 points? I don't think so, because the Chiefs have played down to their opponents and the Texans have capabilities and abilities to beat you. Now, is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? Probably not. Can the Chiefs be beaten? Yes. By the Texans? Yes, absolutely. Do I expect it to happen? I don't. I just don't. But the game of the entire postseason tournament for this year, the 2024 season in 2025, is most likely this football game in Buffalo this coming Sunday. You could call it the Super Bowl before the Super Bowl if you wanted to. And the reality is I'm here for it. You're here for it. We're all here for it. Lace them up, tie them on, tighten your chin strap. This thing is just getting started for the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. This should be the game of the entire postseason. It's going to be a fun game to watch. I would tell you to enjoy it. Don't sit around waiting for the Bills, expecting the Bills to make the mistakes that's going to cause them to lose the game. How about this? How about grab yourself a beer and some popcorn and be hopeful, be excited, look forward to moving on to the AFC Championship game, to whomever you might play, whether it's most likely the Chiefs or potentially the Texans. But anyways, a lot of good football coming up, a lot of good stuff. The postseason is not only here, we're in the throes of it. The Bills are 1-0, beating the Broncos. And coming up this week, tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, the Off Tackle with John Fina show comes to you live. What do we got tomorrow night, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock? Elena Getzenberg, Buffalo Bills beat reporter for ESPN, will be joining us to talk about yesterday's game as well as the game coming up against the Ravens and narratives surrounding that. Wednesday, the Hump Day Hotline, myself and Jay Spence the King. Thursday, the Overreaction first preview of this Buffalo Bills Raven, in-depth preview of the Buffalo Bills Ravens game. If you are not catching Jerry Ostrowski's shows on Thursdays, the Big O show, you're missing out. He gives you the 5 keys to the game, and I don't know how many weeks it's been more than 6 or 7, about 8 now, where he has nailed the 5 keys to the game for the Buffalo Bills to win their football game. So if you want the best insight that you are going to get from anybody Buffalo Bills content related, go to a former Buffalo Bill. Now, there's a lot of content creators that I love. There's a lot of Bills Mafia content creators are some of my best friends. I'm not slamming them. I'm just telling you to include or add the Big O Show to your regular viewing or listening schedule, because if you want the best in-depth, detailed information as it pertains to a football game, ask a former professional football player that used to play for the Buffalo Bills. So add it to whatever your list is. So I've got a list of guys and girls that I listen to. Add the Big O Show. That's all I'm telling you to do. Appreciate you guys hanging out for me for a couple of minutes here on Victory Monday. Love you guys. Thanks to everybody again in the comments section. Sorry I didn't get to any of the comments. Just had a lot to get through, and then went on a tangent on the whole people that hate on Sean McDermott thing. So sorry about that too if I ruffled any feathers. Actually, I'm not, but yes. But yeah, so good to have all of you guys join me. I'll talk to you tonight, 8 o'clock live with John Fina. But for me, for John, for Jerry, for all of us here at Overreaction, we love you guys. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Go Bills.